Hey guys. Tonight we open the shutters to a dark, drizzly sky, the kind that hums softly against your window like a lullaby you forgot you knew. The air is thick with the scent of rain on concrete, and there's a steady hush that seems to press pause on the whole world. Inside, the lights low and golden. A cup of something warm rests in your hand, steam curling like a slow-dancing ghost. You're tucked under a blanket, and in front of you lies a heavy, cracked leather book you don't remember buying. The title is faint, practically dissolved. A bestiary of forgotten tales. You crack it open anyway, because why not? You've survived work, bills, group chats, and the abomination that is airline food. Surely a cursed book isn't your final boss. Or maybe it is. You probably won't survive this. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is where you are. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The first thing that happens is nothing! The book lies open. The pages flutter slightly from the breeze through the cracked window. You shift a little, the blanket warming up around your shoulders, and wonder if maybe this was overhyped in your head. Maybe you were hoping for some kind of epic entrance, thunder, a glowing page, a puff of enchanted smoke. You get none of that. You get rain. Rain that begins to sound like tapping, then speaking. It's absurd, obviously. Rain doesn't talk, but the rhythm on the windows changes. It's not just drops, it's syllables. And then you hear it. A whisper, not in your ear, but somewhere between the walls and your bones. The story begins when you leave the room. You blink. You close the book, you open it again, blank. You look up, and outside the window is someone or something. They're massive. That's your first thought. Not towering, but big enough to loom. Definitely taller than your porch railing. Their shape is half hidden by the downpour, and the glass fogs slightly where your breath quickens. You lean closer. They don't move. Just watching, you pull back. Do the whole nope thing. Lock the window. Close the curtains. Because you're a rational, sensible grown-up who doesn't chase strangers into storms just because they vaguely resemble a bedtime story villain. But here's the thing. You open the curtains again. They're gone. And in their place? Muddy footprints, not on your porch. In your hallway? Great. You reach for your phone. Dead. Classic horror trope. You'd roll your eyes if your stomach weren't doing somersaults. You stand up. The house creaks, old wood shifting like it's exhaling, and you follow the footprints. Because of course you do. They lead through the kitchen, past the fridge humming its indifferent tune, and out the back door, which now hangs open just a crack. Rain hisses on the grass beyond. You step outside. The air bites with chill, but it's oddly refreshing, like it's rinsing away your better judgment. The footprints lead down the garden path, into the woods behind your house. These are trees you've always meant to explore. Until now, you never have. Funny how curiosity only really kicks in when it feels slightly fatal. The rain is heavier here. You hear the drops striking leaves, branches, your own shoulders. It's like walking inside percussion. You half expect to see a drummer hiding behind a bush. The footprints stop. You look up. There's a gate, not a wooden garden gate, not some backyard thing. This is wrought iron, twisted into shapes you can't quite describe. Curves and loops and spikes that shimmer with rain. It looks ancient. Roman? Baroque? Historians still argue whether similar structures found in Transylvania were ornamental, spiritual, or just terribly impractical. Beyond it, a path winds into fog. You push the gate, it opens silently, and you step through. There's no flash, no swirl of magical light. The world doesn't tilt. but something shivers. You know, like when you realize someone's reading over your shoulder. The forest deepens. The trees stretch taller, branches bending inward, as if they're trying to protect or trap you. Moss blankets everything. You swear some of it pulses, like breathing. And then you see it. Through the curtain of rain and mist, a castle. It doesn't rise like a Disney fantasy. It sinks upward, if that makes sense. Like it's part of the earth, grown rather than built. Ivy wraps around spires. Gargoyles peer out from shadowed alcoves, not snarling, just bored. The windows glow faintly, like candlelight through old glass. You approach slowly, half expecting the whole thing to vanish. But it doesn't. The drawbridge is down, moss-covered, slick with rain. You cross it. The doors open before you touch them. Inside, it smells like damp parchment and old roses. Warmth curls around your ankles. The floors don't creak. The silence isn't empty. It's listening. You're no longer soaked. Your clothes are dry. The fire in the hearth crackles like it's been expecting you. The only thing missing? The thing from your window. You whisper, "Hello?" The rain stops outside, and something upstairs answers back, "You're late." The voice is low, worn down like an old record left in the rain. You hesitate, foot still half on the welcome rug. Though let's be honest, nothing about this place is exactly welcome. But then again, you did follow muddy footprints into a thunderstorm and through a cursed gate. So maybe hesitating is a bit behind schedule for you. You climb the staircase. Each step feels older than the last. The banister is carved with vines, roses, and what you think might be wolves, or possibly lawyers. It's hard to tell. The rain-streaked light messes with the shadows. Halfway up, you glance back. The grand hall below stretches wider than it should. You'd swear it wasn't that big when you walked in. But space here doesn't seem interested in being consistent. At the top of the stairs, a hallway curves like a spine. Tapestries line the walls, some of them moving subtly. In one, a woman with gold-threaded hair is pouring something into a cauldron. In another, a knight and a lion are playing chess. You follow the voice to the last door on the right. It opens without sound. Inside is a study. Not dusty, not ancient, just lived in. Books, candles, and ink pots are everywhere. There's a massive armchair facing the fire. In it, you see a broad back, fur-covered. A clawed hand rests on the armrest, holding a pair of cracked reading glasses. "Sit," the voice says again. You do. The figure doesn't turn right away, just sighs and speaks into the fire. "The rain called you here, always does. Same pattern every few decades." You open your mouth to ask what, but he cuts you off with a wave of his paw. "You don't need to understand it, not yet. First you need a story, one that fits." He reaches down beside the chair and pulls up a book so thick it might qualify for citizenship. Its cover is made of something dark and soft, not leather exactly, but close enough to make you suspicious. He flips through it with claws surprisingly gentle. Beauty and the Beast, version 147, draft 12. Might be useful? You blink. "Wait, version what?" He grunts. "Oh, you thought there was just one?" The Beast finally turns his head slightly, just enough for you to catch the edge of his profile. Fur, horn, tired eyes. They've been telling this story for centuries. Every culture has its own flavor. The French one stuck, mostly thanks to Villeneuve and Beaumont. But it's all patchwork. He flips to a page that shows an illustration of the castle you're sitting in. That's why you're here. The rain's trying again. You raise an eyebrow. Trying what exactly? The Beast sighs again. The fire flickers in sync. To finish the story, properly, Not the sanitized, animated kiss and the curse is lifted version. The original story, the one with teeth. You sit back. Okay, let's talk about the original Beauty and the Beast for a second. Historians still argue whether the earliest form came from Greek myth, specifically the tale of Cupid and Psyche, or if it emerged organically across various cultures as a metaphor for arranged marriages. In any case, the best-known versions were written in 1740 by Gabriel Suzanne Barbeau de Villeneuve and later trimmed down by Jean-Marie Le Prince de Beaumont in 1756. The latter is the one most people remember. But the version you're about to live? Yeah, this one's weirder. The Beast finally looks at you fully. His face isn't terrifying. It's expressive, tired, and oddly kind. His horns curve like old oak roots. His eyes glint like they've seen entire civilizations rise and fall. He doesn't snarl. He doesn't growl. He reads. "You'll stay here now," he says. "There's a guest wing ready for you. Don't wander into the East Wing. Don't open any books with blood-red bindings, and never follow the music." He stands, tall as a doorway, and exits before you can ask anything else. You're alone. You don't leave the study right away. You stare at the fire. The rain has started again, harder now, tapping the windows like impatient fingers. On the wall, a clock ticks, but not with numbers, with words. Instead of 12, there's prologue. Once, who, beast, lost, found, change, price, wish, break, rose, end. You whisper, "What time is it?" The clock's hand rests on who. Right. Super helpful. Eventually, you leave the study. The hallway has shifted. You're fairly sure the tapestry you passed before, the one with the chess game, now shows the lion winning. Your guest room is absurd. 4-poster bed, velvet curtains, a fireplace already roaring, a wardrobe that hums to itself. The bed even smells like that one hotel you stayed at during a conference in Vienna, a mix of lavender and old money. On the bedside table is a book. Your book, a bestiary of forgotten tales. You didn't bring it. You open it again. This time the pages aren't blank. They're filled with a story. Not a story. Your story. What just happened? The footprints, the gate, the beast. It's all there, word for word. But the last line is new. And then they dreamed of a voice in the dark saying, "You're not the first." You shiver. There's a knock at the door. You open it slowly. A tray sits on the floor. Tea, 2 scones. A note? Try to remember your dreams. They matter here. You eat the scone. Because obviously the best response to magical imprisonment is carbs. As you fall asleep, the rain intensifies, and it begins to sound like something else. Whispers again. Names. Some of them sound familiar. Some of them sound like yours. You wake up slowly, as if the night doesn't want to let go of you yet. The room is darker than it should be for morning, and outside, the rain hasn't let up. It's become a steady curtain, almost theatrical in its consistency. It hushes the world, like someone pulling a thick blanket over sound itself. You sit up in the enormous bed, sheets twisted around you like ivy, and for a moment, you can't tell if you actually woke up or if you're in another dream nested inside the last one. The fire's gone out. The book on the nightstand is closed again. You open it. Your dream is there, word for word. A hallway made of mirrors. A voice humming behind glass. Your reflection walking away from you, smiling. You didn't even remember that dream until just now. And yet there it is, documented in your own handwriting. Not ink, but something darker, slightly metallic. Hopefully not blood. Hopefully. Someone knocks again. No footsteps this time. Just a knock, and when you open the door, there's a new note under the empty teacup. It's raining because the story is unfinished. You're not just here to hear it. You're here to help end it. You carry the note with you as you wander the halls. The castle doesn't creak or shift like a haunted house. It breathes, slow and rhythmic. Warm drafts brush your face like sighs. The paintings on the wall change slightly as you pass. A girl holding a rose is now holding a sword. A man praying is now sleeping. You find the beast in what might be a conservatory, though you hesitate to call it that. The plants here are not right. Some glow faintly. Some seem to be listening to your conversation. One even burps, quietly, like it's embarrassed. He's tending to a vine with blossoms that look like tiny porcelain teacups. You're not the first one to arrive in the rain, he says without turning. Not the 100th. The rain's been doing this long before I took this form. You lean against the frame of the doorway, careful not to brush a plant that seems to be snoring. Why me? The beast shrugs. Rain is clever, chooses who it needs, not always who it wants. Some people don't stay long. Some can't handle it. He trails off. You wait. Some never leave. Outside the glass, lightning flashes, but there's no thunder. The sky is stuck in a kind of hush. I don't remember much, he admits. I think I was a prince, or a scribe, maybe a gardener. Historians still argue whether I was cursed for cruelty or for curiosity. Either way, the castle took me in, kept me from rotting in the world I broke. You glance around. Not the worst Airbnb. He chuckles, which sounds like gravel softening in a stream. You point at a thick vine curling near his ankle. What happens if I fail the story? If I tell it wrong? He doesn't answer, just clips a wilting bud from the vine. And you realize he doesn't know. There's a library here, of course. Wouldn't be a fairy tale castle without one. But this one isn't pristine and polished. It's sprawling, chaotic, full of stacked books and crooked ladders, with dust that moves when you look away. A chandelier above hangs with candles that never drip, and occasionally one of the shelves sneezes. You don't know how else to describe the sound. You find a desk with journals stacked high, each one labeled with a year you can't place. Year of the 5th Thorn, Cycle of the Swan's Mirror, 8th Autumn of Silence. One entry catches your eye. Her name was Claudine, came in the middle of a flood, could paint in the air with her fingertips, almost made it to the East Wing before she vanished. You flip the page. It's blank. You find dozens of entries, names, talents, strange little details. One man who could speak to weather vanes, a woman who dreamed backwards, a child who refused to speak until the rose bloomed, who never did. And each one, gone. The beast appears in the doorway, watching you quietly. You hold up a journal. How many? He sighs. Too many. Do you remember them all? I try not to. You sit in the heavy chair behind the desk. A candle lights itself beside you. So I'm supposed to... What? Retell the story in a way that ends the rain? Not retell, he says. Re-feel. You have to understand the truth under the tale. Which is... He looks genuinely pained. That love isn't a solution, it's a test. And this castle cheats. The fireplace flares to life behind you. In the mirror above it, you see your reflection. Only it's not moving. You are. But the reflection is still smiling faintly. You stand and face it fully. Your hand lifts. The reflection doesn't follow. Instead, it raises its other hand, presses a single finger to its lips. Shh. Then it fades. You're not alone in here, not fully. The beast is gone again. The castle is too quiet. You wander deeper into the library, through arches that shouldn't lead anywhere, and find a spiral staircase descending into darkness. Because obviously that's what this night needs. More spiral staircases and poor lighting. At the bottom, a door, Wooden, iron-banded, covered in writing. The same sentence, over and over. Do not open unless you're willing to change. You touch the handle. It's warm. You hesitate. And from behind you, in a whisper that isn't the beast's, isn't yours, isn't even quite sound. You already have. You back away from the door. The writing on it shimmers faintly, as if it's breathing. Not in the metaphorical way you've grown used to here, but actually. The door inhales. The words sink slightly, pulse. Then they still. You whisper into the dim, change into what? No one answers. The stairs behind you seem longer now, as if the spiral doubled itself out of spite. But you climb. Because that's what you do when you've stumbled into a castle that might eat you. You go deeper anyway. By the time you reach the library again, the air has shifted. Books whisper. Pages rattle softly like leaves in wind. A voice somewhere, high up in the stacks, starts reciting poetry in Old French, then stops abruptly, mid-syllable. You feel oddly like you've interrupted something. You don't find the beast. But you find something else. A painting. You're sure it wasn't there before. It's a massive canvas hung behind the desk, depicting a ballroom. Not opulent, more fever dream elegant. Cracked mirrors, curling chandeliers, and dozens of dancers mid-spin, their faces blurred. Except one. Your face, front and center, mid-twirl, eyes closed, arms wide, as if you're giving in to the music. You blink. Now your painted self is looking at you and smiling. You stagger back and knock over a stack of books. A small journal flops open at your feet. It's not in the beast's hand. The writing is scratchier, angrier. You scan a page. He lied. It's not love that breaks the curse. It's memory. I remembered who I was. And then it tried to take that from me. I've nailed my name into the floorboards under the west stairwell. If I forget again, maybe someone else will find it. You shut the journal, hands shaking. Then you do something a little bit unwise, which, let's be honest, is totally on brand for you now. You head for the west stairwell. The castle doesn't like it. The walls seem to contract slightly as you pass. Doors you walked by earlier have disappeared. Paintings have turned to walls. Candles flicker blue. You reach the stairwell. It creaks with every step. You crouch at the bottom step, tap along the baseboard. At first, nothing. Then you feel it, one plank slightly raised. You wedge it up with your fingers. There it is, carved in jagged strokes. Marin. A name, not yours. You whisper it aloud. The wind outside howls. A moment later, the candle at the top of the stairs goes out. You spin. Standing in the darkness is not the beast, but a tall figure in a heavy velvet coat. No face, just a mask, bone white with eye holes deeper than should be possible. You back up slowly. I didn't mean to. The masked figure speaks, but the voice doesn't come from its mouth. It comes from behind you. Then stop digging. You whip around. No one's there. Turn back. Mask gone. Just an empty stairwell. This castle is starting to feel less like a fairy tale and more like a fever. You make it back to your room. You think. It smells different now. Less like lavender, more like... You sniff. Petrichor. The scent of wet earth after rain. That sharp, mineral memory of things growing back. The smell that reminds you of childhood, heartbreak, and once kissing someone in a thunderstorm just to prove you could. And then you hear the music, distant, muffled through the walls. A waltz, low strings, something sad and expectant. You remember what the beast said. Never follow the music. You close the door. But curiosity is a cruel roommate. You peek out. The hallway is empty. The music calls softly, like a memory you forgot to pack when you left home. You go. Of course you do. Through corridors you haven't seen yet. Past rooms labeled with symbols instead of numbers. A crown, a thorn, a spiral, an eye. You walk until the music is no longer distant. It's here. You step into a ballroom. Not ruined. Not cracked. Alive. The floor gleams. The chandeliers glow. Candles twirl slightly as if caught in a breeze. Dozens of figures dance, but none of them have faces. They're clothed ornately, extravagantly. But where their heads should be, there's mist, soft and swirling. You can't look directly at them without getting dizzy, and yet they waltz. Perfectly. Timed to music that no one seems to be playing, except for one. A woman in the corner. She sits at a piano made of glass and shadow. Her hair falls like ink down her back. Her face is half masked, like a cracked porcelain doll. She watches you without blinking. You don't know how you know, but you do. She's the one from the journal. Maren. She finishes the piece with a single brittle note, then stands. The dancers freeze all at once. She walks to you, steps precise. Barefoot, the sound sharp and strange on the polished floor. You're the one from the rain, she says. You nod. She studies you, then touches your temple with a cold finger. Don't forget your name. If you do, it will give you a new one, and you won't like it. You swallow. What are you? She smiles sadly. I was the story. Once and then she's gone. The dancers resume as if nothing happened. You flee, down unfamiliar halls, back towards something that resembles sanity. You find the beast waiting in your room. He doesn't scold, just pours you tea. You followed the music. You nod. Did you meet her? You nod again. He looks pained. She was close. So close. But the castle took more than her name. You take the tea. What happens if it takes mine? He doesn't answer. Instead, he points to the book on your nightstand. It's open again. This time the last line says, and now they understood. This wasn't a rescue story. This was a survival one. You don't sleep. Not really. You lie there in the bed that shifts its scent every few minutes. Now roses, now vanilla, now something dark and nostalgic like a bookstore's basement. And pretend your brain is resting. It isn't. It's flipping through everything like a frantic librarian trying to reshelve entire decades of your memories. Outside, the rain thickens. You can hear the puddles forming. The book on the nightstand breathes with a faint hum, its pages occasionally turning themselves. You can't bear to touch it again tonight. It knows too much, probably gossips with the mirror. At some godless hour, the fire rekindles itself. You watch it dance. And that's when you see it. Etched faintly into the stones around the fireplace are dozens, no hundreds of tally marks, scratched with something sharp and deliberate. Some are clustered, some stretch on for feet. People have counted something here. Minutes, days, attempts. You walk over and crouch, running your fingers along one particularly deep groove. A faint prickle runs up your arm, and for a split second you swear you see the mark glowing. That's when the voice returns. Not Maren's, not the beast's. This one is deeper, feminine, and weary, like velvet with teeth. Some stories refuse to end because the truth keeps changing. You stand slowly. The room has darkened, even though the fire still burns. In the mirror above the mantel, your reflection isn't you again. It's older, tired, wearing clothes you've never owned, holding a rose that's half petal, half thorn. The reflection speaks, but the mouth doesn't move. What did you come here to forget? You blink. The image is gone. You do what anyone would do at this point. You leave the room. Again. And this time, you go up. The staircase to the east wing curves forever. The further you climb, the more the walls shift from stone to something not quite wood, like bone that's learned how to be architecture. You try not to think too hard about it. The portraits along the walls grow stranger. Less historical, more interpretive. One shows a woman reading a book that's reading her back. Another shows a forest made entirely of mirrors, with a single shadow standing at its center. You reach the top. The hallway here is different, narrower. The windows show no landscape, only rain falling against black. Not night, nothingness, and at the end, a door, plain, wood but smooth, no carvings, no handle, just a small plaque. Chamber of First Drafts. You touch it. It swings open. Inside is a room that feels raw, unfinished. The walls are scribbled with notes in dozens of hands, phrases, outlines, crossed-out names, half-formed dialogue. There's a desk, on it a thick manuscript, yellowed pages bound by red string. You pick it up and read the first line. Once upon a time, there was a castle that didn't want to be remembered. You turn the page. Each line is a new version of the same tale. In one, the beast is a girl. In another, the rose is sentient and a little sarcastic. In a third, Belle never enters the castle at all. She burns it down from the outside. And yet in all of them, one thing is constant: the rain. It always begins to fall when the story fails to end. One page has a note scrawled across the top in aggressive red ink. Why can't they escape? Another, tucked into the back cover. Do not edit this draft while grieving. You return the manuscript to the desk and look up at the wall. A map of the castle has been drawn there, but some rooms have been scribbled out entirely. One catches your eye. The room that remembers you before you arrive. It's circled, and it's directly below this one. You step back into the hall, heart thudding now, and find another staircase, narrow and coiled like a question mark. Down you go. The air grows heavier. You're sweating now. Not from exertion. This is fear's warm cousin, anticipation. You reach a plain door. It opens before you touch it. The room is dim, lit only by a single lantern swinging slowly from the ceiling. The floor is covered in hundreds of old photographs, and every one of them is of you. Not always how you are now. Some younger, some older, some you don't recognize, but something in the posture, the eyes, the tilt of the mouth. It's you. One photo shows you standing in this very room years ago, smiling. In the background, the beast, leaning in a doorway like he's seen this all before. Another photo shows you as a child, drenched in rain, standing at the edge of a forest that looks suspiciously like the grounds surrounding the castle. Historians still argue whether the tale of Beauty and the Beast emerged from one original narrative, or if it's an amalgam of European folk stories merged by the French salons of the 17th century. But one theory, dismissed by most scholars, filed under symbolism, possibly deranged, suggests that the tale has always been autobiographical. Just different person, different version, every time. You're beginning to wonder if that theory is true. And if it's your turn now. A small voice from beneath the photos says, "I remember you." You step back, shaking. One of the photos begins to move. Not just animate, live. The version of you inside it looks up, meets your eyes, and whispers, "If you stay, you'll forget why you came." You drop the lantern. It doesn't shatter, but it screams. You run, back into the hallway, back up the spiral, back to anywhere but there. When you finally stop, panting and slick with a fear sweat you'll be smelling for hours, you find yourself in a corridor lined with mirrors, all reflecting you. Only none of them are quite right. One version is smiling when you aren't. Another is older, missing an eye. One is bruised. One is laughing. One is turned away entirely, showing you only your back. And at the very end of the corridor, a single mirror. Cracked down the center. Your reflection stares. It mouths one word. You lean closer. the mirror's surface ripples like water. Run! You don't run. You should, obviously. But this mirror, this cracked, rippling thing with your face, doesn't feel like a threat. It feels like a challenge. Like when your best friend dares you to try wasabi for the first time, and you do, and you regret it instantly, but you also kind of love the chaos. So yeah, you step forward. The moment your fingers brush the surface, the mirror pulls you in like breath into lungs. No swirling vortex, no screaming, just a blink. And suddenly, you're elsewhere, a different version of the castle. Same bones, but the skin is wrong. Everything's older, dimmer, covered in a thin film of ash. The tapestries hang like exhausted ghosts. The air tastes metallic. You're in a hallway that smells of stormwater and scorched paper. There's no music, only silence, and one very familiar rose sitting on a pedestal beneath a shattered skylight. It's different now. Bigger. The petals thicker, waxier, with tiny thorns curling from the base like claws. A single droplet of water dangles from its tip. It falls, slowly, like time is debating whether to obey gravity. You look around. This place doesn't feel abandoned. It feels paused. And then you hear the voice again. Marin. Every version of the story thinks it's the last one. You turn. She's standing behind you. In this version of the castle, she's taller. Her face unmasked, though the edges are blurred, like someone started drawing her and gave up halfway. What is this place? She shrugs. The castle between drafts, where stories go to sulk when no one finishes them. You take a shaky breath. Why me? She steps closer. Her bare feet don't make a sound on the scorched floor. Because you haven't decided how your story ends. She leads you down a corridor where the walls are covered in clocks. Some are ticking, others are weeping. One is just screaming the word Wednesday over and over in a child's voice. And then you see it, a door marked Editorial Control. You glance at her. She nods. You open it. Inside is a room that looks like a war between a library and a filing cabinet. Stacks of paper reach the ceiling, labeled with tags like Rejected Outcomes, Versions with More Kissing, Drafts Without the Rain, Do Not Open. Too meta, even for us. You leaf through a file titled Beast Variants and find a list of identities. Cursed Prince Metaphor for PTSD. Literal demon with social anxiety. Shape-shifting archivist misunderstood tax collector, crossed out aggressively. Historians still argue whether the beast in various folk renditions was meant to be feared, pitied, or desired. Some point to 16th century werewolf trials as inspiration. Others say the monster reflects society's discomfort with disability or difference. One fringe theory suggests the beast is the castle, his body spread across its walls like a living mind. You start to feel very watched, because now you are. The walls are watching. They breathe. Marin yanks you out just as one of the file cabinets begins to whisper your full name. Back in the hallway, she grabs your hand. Her skin is cold. Not physically, but existentially. Like holding regret. There's one more room you need to see. She leads you through a shifting corridor that grows narrower the more you try to move freely. A stairwell forms mid-step beneath you, and suddenly you're descending into what feels like the bottom of a thought. You emerge into a chamber filled with shelves. Not books. Objects, things. A cracked teacup, a doll missing one eye, a worn sneaker, a lightning-shaped hair clip. You pick up a small figurine of a wolf in a blue waistcoat. On the base, version 3.14 almost made it. You replace it. Each item hums with memory. Marin speaks beside you. Every guest leaves something behind. Most don't know it. Some never notice they've gone missing. You feel around your pocket suddenly. Everything's there, except your phone. Gone. You didn't even notice it missing until now. And that terrifies you, because the castle doesn't steal what you won't miss. It steals what you'll need later. You rush to the shelves, scanning for your phone. You see it, far back on the top shelf, cradled in a stone hand. The screen dark. You grab it, pull. It doesn't budge. Marin places a hand on your shoulder. If you take it now, the story ends. You blink. That's what I want. She tilts her head. Is it? You stop. Think, because here's the thing. You're invested now. Scared, sure, confused, constantly, but also deeply, weirdly intrigued. Like when you start watching a movie on a plane you didn't mean to watch, but now you need to know if the raccoon saves the moon base. So, number, you don't take the phone, you let it rest. It glows, just once, like a wink, and goes dark again. Marin looks impressed. Most fail that test? You shrug. I fail other tests. She nods solemnly. Me too. You leave the room behind. Back in the hall, the rain starts falling up. You watch it streak past the windows, dripping upward into the sky like time is reversed. The castle groans softly. Then the walls ripple. And you're back in the main corridor. Only now, something's changed. The mirrors are gone, replaced with windows. Each one shows a different version of you, in different lives. You as a teacher, you as a street musician, you as someone who never entered this castle, who turned around at the forest's edge and went home and made soup and forgot the strange dream. You ask Marin, quietly, are any of these real? She looks out a window showing you reading this very story on a couch in a hoodie, snack in hand. Does it matter? And for a moment you realize what the castle is. Not a prison, not a curse, a draft. And you? You're the narrator and the character. You don't escape by solving it. You escape by choosing it. The beast waits for you outside the room. He doesn't look surprised to see you. Just tired, like he's been narrating this loop for centuries. He gestures down the hall. This way, he says. The rain's about to begin again. You don't ask what that means, because the sky is already cracking open with thunder, and you suddenly understand. The rain isn't a threat, it's the page turning. The beast doesn't wait for you to follow. He walks ahead, slow but deliberate, like a man who's memorized this path over centuries, but still resents every step of it. You trail behind him, the castle creaking and sighing around you, like it knows you're getting close to something it can't rewind. You're not entirely sure what you're chasing. Closure? Clarity? A decent explanation? That last one might be asking too much. You pass under an archway woven from vines that pulse faintly with a greenish glow. One of them reaches out and gently brushes your shoulder like a cat, acknowledging your presence but still judging you. The beast speaks without turning around. You've seen the drafts, but you haven't seen the original. You blink. There's an original? He nods, voice low. One, hidden, forbidden, still alive. The corridor ahead is darker now, not because of the lack of light, but because the light itself seems hesitant, like it's afraid of what it might reveal. You pass a door that's bricked shut, labeled, "Do not reanimate. Trust me." Another door whispers your name as you pass. Just once. You ignore it like a polite guest pretending not to hear your host's ghost. At last, you reach a narrow staircase spiraling down into the earth. The beast pauses at the top. No turning back once we start. You can, but it won't help. You descend. The steps are warm, not from heat, but from memory. Each footfall echoes with sound, laughter, arguments, lullabies. One stair actually hums the first few bars of Beauty and the Beast, then coughs apologetically. At the bottom, a stone chamber, round, featureless except for a single pedestal at its center. Upon it, a locked book, thick, bound in what looks like tree bark and velvet. Around it, nothing, except silence so complete it hurts. The Beast stands beside it like a sentry. The first story. You walk closer. The book hums, faintly, like a heartbeat. You reach out. The Beast stops you with a clawed hand. Once you open it, things shift. The other versions, some disappear, some rewrite themselves, some retaliate. You hesitate. Why is it locked? He answers softly. Because the truth was never supposed to survive this long. You laugh nervously. Historians still argue whether any singular tale of Beauty and the Beast predates the 16th century, or if the story is just an evolving mirror of the era that tells it. The Beast looks almost amused. You are paying attention. You examine the lock. No keyhole, just a small indentation shaped like a drop. A raindrop. Instinctively, you reach up to your face, and sure enough, you're crying. When did that start? You touch a fingertip to your cheek, catch the tear, and place it in the indentation. Click. The book opens with a sigh, like it's been holding its breath since the beginning of language. The pages shimmer. Not ink. Images. Memories. Events. Fragments. You see a girl standing in a field of red flowers, watching her house burn. A creature in the woods offering shelter. A bargain sealed not in words, but in need. You see the first version. The raw one. She isn't called Belle. She isn't beautiful. She's angry and clever and tired of being told what kind of girl she should be. And the Beast? He's not cursed. He's chosen exile. He wants to be forgotten. You flip pages faster. She doesn't fall in love. She doesn't break a spell. She rewrites it. With fire, with teeth, with the truth. You turn to the final page and find your face. Not metaphorically, literally. It's a reflection. You stare into the book, and the book stares into you. Do you accept authorship? It asks. You hesitate. Will I get answers? Number, but you'll get choices. The Beast is silent, waiting. You say it, quietly. Yes. The book snaps shut, and the castle shifts. Walls buckle, the ceiling lifts. The floor turns soft as moss. Outside, the rain stops. You and the Beast are suddenly standing in a garden. Not a ruined one, not a fairy tale one. A real, scruffy, overgrown garden. There's a plastic flamingo in the corner, and a broken swing set nearby. The Beast shrugs. First drafts are messy. You're not sure whether to laugh or cry, so you compromise by sitting down in the grass and just being for a moment. Across from you, the Beast kneels. I wasn't supposed to be permanent. I was just a device, a mirror, but someone believed in me too long, and now I'm here. You nod slowly, like a metaphor that overstayed its welcome. He smiles, just barely. A soft wind rustles the garden. A bee bumbles past, confused but committed. And somewhere in the distance you hear thunder, not threatening this time, just reminding you that the world keeps moving. Marin appears beside the flamingo. She holds a watering can. Even cursed narratives need tending. You laugh. You don't know why. Maybe because none of this makes sense, and yet somehow it all does. You lie back in the grass, and you realize something. You're not trapped in this story. You're holding it. You've been holding it the whole time. And now? Now you can do something few people ever get to do. You can decide where it goes next. A bell chimes in the distance. The Beast offers you a hand. You take it. Back in the castle, wherever that castle may now be, a staircase unfolds in front of you, each step labeled with a word. Choice. Memory. Voice. Rain. Forgiveness. Rewrites. You begin to climb, And as you do, the rain resumes. But now, you welcome it. The steps don't creak under your weight. They remember. Each one lights up softly as your foot lands, glowing with the faint golden hue of old candlelight mixed with library dust. You ascend, slower now, not because you're tired, but because something in you knows that the story breathes better when it isn't rushed. Behind you, the beast walks quietly. No more growls, no more looming shadows, just the soft scrape of claws against ancient stone. Above you, a door waits. It doesn't burst open or glow ominously. It's just slightly ajar. A beam of twilight leaks through the crack, casting a thin line across the floor. That familiar in-between color. Not quite day, not quite night. The exact shade the world wears when it's deciding what kind of dream to fall into. You pause at the door. Do I need to knock? The beast shakes his head. You already did. You push the door open and step into a memory. Not your own, not entirely. You're in a small, old-fashioned room. Wood floors, a fireplace with a faded rug, a table littered with books and cold tea. There's a girl by the window, no older than 20, her face turned toward the rain outside. She doesn't see you. Because she's not really now. This is the original Belle. Or at least the Belle before the editors polished her into a Disney smile. She mutters under her breath as she writes in a journal. Something about refusing to marry the butcher's son. Something about letters she's been sending to a house in the woods, addressed to no one. I thought he was a ghost, she murmurs, but he wrote back. You step forward, careful not to disturb the scene. The beast stays by the threshold. You notice something odd. The letters she's referencing? They're still here. You can read them. They glow faintly on the desk, and they're witty, sardonic, surprisingly tender. He signs them, "The Resident of the Ruined Place." You flip through one, the ink shimmering in that same rain glow. I do not sleep well. But your stories help. The one about the boy who ate only dreams made me laugh. And then I wept. I don't know why. It's not what you expected. You thought he'd be savage, taciturn, maybe just misunderstood. But here, in these letters, he's human, or at least something aching to be. Historians still debate whether the original story ever included this epistolary element. Some scholars argue that the beast's transformation was always metaphorical, that the real alchemy happened through connection, not enchantment. Others dismiss this as a modern revisionist fantasy. Fringe folklorists insist these letters actually existed, lost in a fire at a French convent in the 1600s. You keep reading. Belle's final letter says, I will come at dusk. If you are not real, that's fine. But if you are, don't run. I've been chased enough for one lifetime. The journal closes. The girl vanishes. And you're left in the same room, but now it's present day. Dustier. The rug is threadbare. The teacup is cracked. But the feeling remains. That something happened here. Something worth remembering. You turn to the beast. Is that where it started? He nods once. Where we stopped pretending people only want happy endings. You walk past him into another hallway. It opens up into a room full of dioramas, tiny scenes behind glass, each one a version of Beauty and the Beast as it's been imagined through time. You see, a Victorian parlor with a beast who plays violin while Belle reads Darwin aloud. A 1970s apartment where Belle is a single mom, and the beast is her trauma, slowly shrinking in size the more she paints. A sci-fi desert world where the beast is an AI inside an abandoned planet, and Belle's a linguist trying to learn its code. And one you almost miss, a tiny, nondescript suburban kitchen, a person sitting at a table, reading, rain outside the window. It's you. You tap the glass. The figure inside looks up. You swear they see you. and then the diorama fades. Marin is waiting at the end of the display hall. She's wearing a hoodie now. Your hoodie. Nice to see you catching up. You raise an eyebrow. You're stealing my clothes now? She smirks. Please, I invented your taste. You walk with her into what feels like the castle's heart. Not its throne room, its hearth. A giant fireplace sits at the center, empty, but not cold. You kneel beside it. The ashes stir. A voice rises from them, deep, ancient, tired. Tell me how it ends. You hesitate. Do I get to choose? The voice sighs. No one else ever dared to. And that's when you understand. You're not here to change the story, you're here to continue it. You sit cross-legged beside the hearth and begin to speak. The fire doesn't light with flame, it lights with story, scenes, moments. You see Belle reaching for the beast's hand, not to break a curse, but just to say, I'm here. You see the castle, not crumbling but changing, becoming a library, a shelter, a strange, sprawling home for anyone too weird for the world outside. You see the beast, sometimes furred, sometimes just a tired man with bad posture and a worse haircut, learning to live without needing to be loved to feel real. And then you see yourself, telling this story, aloud. In a quiet room, lit by the glow of your phone screen or laptop, the rain tapping the glass outside. You're the latest teller, not the last, but maybe the one who remembered something crucial. That love stories aren't about saving each other. They're about witnessing each other. The fire crackles once more, then fades. Marin places your phone in your hands. It was never really gone. You check the screen. It shows one line. Do you want to keep going? You nod. To the castle. To the beast. To yourself. Yes. Always. You step back from the hearth, the glow still flickering faintly behind your eyes. Everything smells like burned paper and lavender, notes from some long-lost bedtime, the kind you never knew you missed until you caught its scent again. Marin has vanished. Typical. The beast lingers by the arched doorway, watching you with that quiet curiosity. Not the kind that seeks answers, just the kind that appreciates the shape of a question. He gestures, and you follow. No words, no need. The hallway you enter next feels more like a spinal cord than architecture. Narrow, curved, organic, like you're walking down the vertebrae of some sleeping story. As you walk, you notice paintings on the walls, each one more vivid than the last. They show Belle, but not always the same Belle. Sometimes she's blonde and corseted. Sometimes she's wearing sneakers and a Nirvana shirt. One time she's got blue hair, a nose ring, and a sword. In all of them, she's looking directly at the beast. And in all of them, the beast looks uncertain. Not afraid, not enchanted, just surprised, like he wasn't expecting to be seen. You pause at one frame. It's unpainted. Just blank canvas, stretched and waiting. You glance at the beast. Someone forget to finish this one? He gives you a side glance. That's yours. A beat. When you're ready. You keep walking. Behind you, the blank canvas pulses once, like it's holding its breath. The corridor opens into what looks like an observatory, or maybe a planetarium. Above you, a ceiling of rain clouds swirls, shot through with constellations. Not stars, exactly, but tiny glowing words. They shimmer across the clouds in languages you recognize, and others you feel more than read. Beauty, transformation, wildness, grief. All the words people have poured into this tale over centuries, each one floating above like fireflies that got bored of nature and moved into myth. The beast tilts his head up. This is where the stories go when people forget them. You nod slowly. Not erased, just orbiting. He smiles. waiting to be remembered. A shooting star flashes across a particularly angry rain cloud. It leaves a trail of glittery nonsense. Once upon a maybe, then fizzles out. Below, a wide table sits in the center of the room, covered in fragments, bits of parchment, snippets of songs, broken teacups, and oddly specific trinkets like a VHS tape labeled Bell 1992 Dance Rehearsal. You pick it up. The Beast chuckles. She was really into Janet Jackson that year. You smile, and for the first time, you realize you're smiling with the Beast, not at him. He watches your face shift. You're starting to see it. See what? He gestures to the whole room. This isn't just a love story. It's a lens. Every culture remakes it. Every era redresses it. Because we need a way to talk about taming the parts of ourselves we were taught to fear. You blink. And that's the Beast? He tilts his head. Or Belle. Depends who's doing the telling. Historians still argue whether the Beast in the earliest versions of the tale was meant to be a literal monster or a symbol of inner conflict. Some claim it was a clever way for young women to process the terror of arranged marriages. Others argue it was never about romance at all, but about learning to survive a world that expects you to be small, compliant, and quiet. You trace your fingers along the table. They catch on a tiny, broken key. What's this unlock? The Beast shrugs. Maybe you. You don't ask again. Instead, you lift your gaze back to the words above. Some are fading, others glow brighter. One pulses as you look at it. Rewrite. The Beast follows your eyes. Dangerous word. Tempting, though, he chuckles. It always is. You walk to the edge of the observatory, where the floor meets a drop. No railing, no glass, just open space leading straight down into a fog thick enough to hide anything. You peer over. Far below, you see versions of the tale being performed. Puppets on a stage, animated shorts, ballets, K-dramas, audiobooks, a TikTok where the Beast is a soft boy who runs a used bookstore, and Belle just wants to make zines. Each one burns for a moment, then dissolves into steam. You whisper to the Beast. Why does it keep surviving? He thinks for a moment. Then, because people want to believe that love can see past what the world calls ugly, even when that ugly is inside. You nod. You understand more than you want to admit. A sudden rumble shakes the floor beneath your feet. The words overhead flicker. Uh-oh, says the Beast. You raise an eyebrow. That's not ominous at all. He gestures behind you. The observatory wall has cracked. Through it, a storm rages. Not metaphorical. Actual weather. Lightning. Thunder. That apocalyptic kind of rain, where you wonder if you left the oven on, and if it matters now. You stare. Should we be worried? He looks mildly annoyed. One of the older versions is waking up. You glance again. Which one? He grimaces. The French court tragedy. 1740. Really dramatic. Way too many wigs. From the fog below, a plume of fire shoots up. You swear you hear someone screaming, "Malediction," in a very nasal accent. The Beast sighs. They get jealous when no one reads them anymore. Another rumble. You stumble slightly. The Beast steadies you. We can't stay here much longer. Where do we go? We go deeper. I thought we were already at the core. He gives you a grin that would be charming if it weren't attached to fangs. Oh, sweet child. We haven't even hit the library yet. One last lightning bolt cracks the ceiling. The word enchantment shatters above your head. Glass rains down, but instead of cutting you, it becomes butterflies. You watch them dissolve mid-air. The Beast is already walking. You follow. Into the dark. Again. You follow the Beast into the dark without hesitation. Mostly because your brain is too tired to argue anymore, but partly because some low, humming part of you has begun to trust the rhythm of this place. Even when it shatters ceilings and rains butterflies, the castle never feels cruel. Unpredictable? Sure. The architectural equivalent of a mood swing? Absolutely. But not malicious. The corridor you're in now is narrow, lit only by strips of phosphorescent moss growing between the stones. It smells like the inside of a vintage bookstore. Old paper, melted wax, and something faintly mineral, like wet coins at the bottom of a wishing fountain. You look down at your hands. They're glowing slightly. Am I radioactive? The beast chuckles behind you. Nah, just saturated with story. That sounds worse, honestly, he shrugs. Depends on the story. You round a corner, and the floor disappears. No dramatic warning, no Scooby-Doo trap door. Just one step and suddenly you're floating. The beast doesn't flinch. He just steps into the air like it's a solid bridge. You do the same. The air holds you. Below is an infinite spiral of library shelves, miles of them, stacked like DNA, coiled and humming with the soft buzz of memory. Books line the walls, scrolls, vinyl records, tarot decks, ceramic jars with tiny poems etched on their rims. There's even a floppy disk labeled Beast.x-Beta1. It's a whole archive of forgotten versions. You drift downward, gently spiraling. As you descend, you begin to hear the library. Not just the ambient hush or the shushing of invisible librarians, but actual voices. She kissed him before she knew he'd change. The enchantress cursed him, but the twist is, and in this version the beast never turns human. He just gets really into cross-stitching. Each shelf hums with a different retelling. Historians still argue whether the earliest oral versions of Beauty and the Beast were originally meant for adults, not children. Some claim it was used as a tool for preparing young women for the social negotiations of marriage. Others suggest it was a coded myth about queerness, transformation, and the parts of ourselves we aren't allowed to name. The beast guides you to a platform, one of many, hanging mid-air like a cloud that got tired and stopped to rest. On it sits a book bound in midnight blue leather. No title. What's this one? You ask. He hesitates. Then, the one you never told. You open it. The pages are blank. Then not. Words emerge, one by one. You never said how you survived that year. You never said why you stopped drawing. You never said what happened in the room with no windows. You close the book. Gently. It stills. The beast places a hand on your shoulder. This story is yours to finish, but not tonight. You nod, unsure whether you're relieved or disappointed. So where are we going? He points across the void. A pulsing orb of gold light floats in the distance. To the root. Of the story? Of you. You groan. Ugh, therapy-level nonsense. He grins. Correct. You launch yourselves off the platform, and the air carries you in slow, curling arcs. Around you, books whisper and hum. A tiny dragon made of bookmarks watches you pass, then snorts confetti. Halfway there, you pass a room hanging like a suspended lung. Inside, Belle is dancing, but not with the beast. She's alone, waltzing in a room full of mirrors. She's laughing, awkwardly at first, then full-bodied and reckless. Her reflection multiplies in every direction. You pause. Was she always this free? The beast watches her. Quiet. Only when no one was watching. You keep moving. Soon the gold light grows nearer. Brighter, but also sadder. It's not a flashy kind of light. It's the light of 3 a.m. honesty, of someone sitting beside you in silence, of an old dog's eyes on the last good day. You land on a soft, mossy platform beneath it. The orb pulses. It speaks. Tell me what you're still carrying. Your voice catches. What if I don't know? The light sighs, not impatiently, just knowingly. Then start where it hurts. You sit, and slowly begin to speak. Not loudly, not even audibly, but with your bones. You tell the orb about the year you forgot to be kind to yourself, about the faces you missed, the dream you buried under practicality, the time someone said you were too much, and how you started shrinking ever since. And the orb listens. No judgment, no advice, just presence. One light in a dark library, giving warmth. You glance at the beast, his eyes are wet. You okay? You ask softly. He nods. I never got to say all that. To Belle? To myself. You stay there for a while. Neither of you rushes. Eventually, the orb begins to dim. Gently, like a candle realizing it's time to rest. Before it goes, it speaks once more. Thank you for not skipping the sad parts. You whisper. They're the most honest ones. The light goes out. But the warmth lingers. You stand. The beast stretches. All right, that was heavy. You hungry? You blink. What? He grins. There's a midnight kitchen 2 levels up. They do a killer soup. The castle has a kitchen? It has 6, but only one that does soup after emotional breakthroughs. You laugh. And for once, it's your voice that echoes in this strange and holy place. You float upward again, trailing behind the beast, who's now whistling a tune that sounds suspiciously like the bridge from a forgotten Prince ballad. The library coils downward beneath you, each level shimmering like a memory you don't quite own. And soon you find yourself emerging into a narrow passageway that smells like cinnamon, old thyme, and a hint of wet dog. Midnight kitchen, the beast says with a chef's kiss. Trust me. You step through an arched doorway shaped like a soup spoon, because of course it is, and into a warm, dim room lit entirely by stove flames and one gently overworked chandelier that swings with a creak that could be Morse code or just charming neglect. The kitchen is a mess. Not chaotic, not dangerous, just lived in. Bowls stacked precariously like a ceramic Jenga tower. A ladle lodged in what appears to be a pot of dreams and barley. One cabinet is slightly ajar, humming a lullaby you can't place. And the hearth, predictably, is stirring a pot by itself. You raise an eyebrow. Is it weird I feel safer here than in most people's actual homes? The beast shrugs. Sentient soup always helps. He tosses his coat over a chair that turns itself to face you with a polite bow. Then he sits across from you at a long wooden table etched with hundreds of tiny initials, some in cursive, some in claw marks. From the hearth, a ladle rises and points at you. You want the melancholy lentil or the rage reduction ramen? You blink. Lentil? The ladle nods like it's satisfied with your emotional literacy. Bowls appear. Steam rises. You eat. And it is, hands down, the most comforting bowl of soup you've ever had. Every bite tastes like a memory you were missing. Snow days, the good kind of solitude, that one hug you didn't know you needed until it happened. The beast slurps loudly. So, how are you holding up? You lean back. Somewhere between enchanted and existential. He nods. That's the sweet spot. You sit in silence for a while, letting the warmth fill you. And then you ask the question that's been pressing against your ribs since this began. Why didn't Belle stay? He doesn't look up right away. When he does, his eyes are far away. Because she didn't come to save me. She came to find herself. But the story says, I know what the story says. The steam thickens, or maybe the shadows just get longer. In the earliest versions, he continues, the beast was never meant to be loved. He was meant to be understood. Belle wasn't a reward. She was a witness. You swirl your spoon. So what happened? He smiles sadly. People don't like ambiguity. They want kisses and wedding bells. They want the monster tamed and the girl redeemed. That's not what happened here. No. He stands and walks to a small cupboard tucked beneath the counter. From it, he pulls a tiny, cracked teacup. It has a chip in the rim. You recognize it. Wait. Chip? He nods. That's real? He holds the cup like it might break again. In one version, Belle cried over him. In another, she left and never came back. In a few, she became the beast herself. You sip your soup. That last one feels honest. He grins. That one's gaining popularity. Historians still argue whether the tale's longevity is due to its romantic core or its adaptability. Some versions make the beast a prince again. Others keep him monstrous forever. In one rare Sicilian take, Belle slays her own father for giving her away like property. Yikes. In another, she opens a school for girls in the castle after the beast dies quietly in the garden, content but unloved. You lean forward. Which one's true? He raises a clawed hand and taps your forehead. Whichever one you carry. From the corner, the hearth gives a delighted pop, like it's been listening this whole time. The door behind you creaks open. The wind enters first, followed by a smell you didn't expect. Ozone and magnolia. Rain. Real rain, not memory rain or metaphor rain. You rise and cross to the door. Outside, it's pouring. But the castle doesn't leak. It adapts. A large awning appears above the threshold, unfolding like a sleepy bat's wing. The stone glows faintly beneath your feet. You step outside and let the rain hit your skin. You're surprised at how gentle it is, like the kind of rain that invites you to walk in it barefoot. You glance at the beast. Do you miss the ending? He considers. I miss the middle. You tilt your head. Why? Because the middle is where she saw me. You're quiet for a long time. Rain hushes the air between you, and then the wind shifts and carries a sound. Faint at first, like music in another room. It grows louder, a voice, a familiar one. That's Maren, you whisper. The beast nods. She's near the mirror hall. You look at him. Am I ready? He smiles. No one is. That's the fun part. And without another word, he steps into the storm. You follow, because of course you do. This castle rewrites itself every time you move, and you're finally learning how to read it. You chase the voice through the rain, each step tapping out a soft drumbeat on the stone path that now somehow winds through a garden you swear wasn't there 5 minutes ago. The scent of magnolia deepens. Jasmine, too. Maybe a hint of burnt sugar. Or is that your imagination? The beast keeps pace beside you. Silent, steady. You don't talk. You don't need to. The voice, Maren's voice, is growing clearer now, floating through the corridors like a lullaby stuck on loop. Not the words exactly, just the cadence. The kind of sound you recognize before you understand. You enter the Hall of Mirrors without fanfare. No grand doors, no trumpets, just a velvet curtain you swipe aside like a shower liner, and suddenly, light. So much light. Mirrors line every surface, floor to ceiling, hundreds, thousands, some tall and gilded, some cloudy and cracked, some fogged up like someone just stepped out of the shower and didn't bother to wipe the glass. It's like walking through a shattered prism. Everywhere you look, you see yourself. But not just yourself. You in pajamas. You as a child, holding a crayon like it's a sword. You running from someone, you kissing someone, you asleep, drooling unattractively on a plane. Okay, you murmur. This is deeply unflattering. The beast raises an eyebrow. This is nothing. Wait until the carousel. You ignore him, because now you see her. Marin. She's not quite real, not solid, just a reflection moving between mirrors, always a few steps ahead. Her dress swirls when she turns. She's barefoot. She's laughing. Marin, you call. No answer. Just more laughter. You run. Which is weird, because you never run in dreams. But this doesn't feel like a dream anymore. The mirrors grow stranger as you go. You see versions of yourself you've never met. One has silver hair and a crow perched on her shoulder. One is reading a book titled, How to Survive the End of a Fairy Tale You Never Agreed to Be In. One wears armor made entirely of raincoats. You skid to a halt. Marin is right in front of you now. She stands inside a tall mirror with a tarnished frame, her hand pressed against the glass. There you are, she says softly. You raise your hand. Touch the glass. It's warm. Is this really you? You whisper. Is this really you? She echoes. You glance at the beast, but he's no longer beside you. Just your reflection now, staring back with the same stunned, blinking face. Marin steps forward, and the glass gives, just a little, like it's breathing. Why did you come back? She asks. To find the story, you say, unsure where the words are coming from. To find you. She smiles, but it's the kind of smile people wear when they're about to disappoint you. You can't hold on to me forever. I'm not trying to. Aren't you? You look down at your hands. They're dripping mirror water. The mirror ripples, and suddenly you're inside. Not through it, in it. The world folds. Everything is reversed. Marin is gone again, but her voice echoes. This isn't about me. You turn. Behind you stands a version of the beast you've never seen before. Younger, broken horns, tear-streaked face. I tried to be good, he says. I tried to change. You did change, you reply. No one saw. I saw. He looks at you surprised. Then he shudders and dissolves into wind, which turns into music, which becomes a door. You walk through it and emerge, gasping, into a room of tangled rose bushes. Except these roses aren't red. They're glass, each petal clear, trembling, refracting memory. You recognize them. Each one holds a scene. One shows Marin reading under a lamplight while you fake sleep on the couch. One shows her leaving. One shows her not turning around. They said love was supposed to fix things, you murmur. The beast's voice floats from somewhere behind a thorn-covered arch. They lied. So what is love? You find him kneeling by a dying vine, petals scattered like confetti after a party no one stayed to clean up. Love, he says, is the story we tell ourselves to survive the parts of us we can't explain. That sounds bleak, he grins. It's also beautiful. You walk beside him, past a row of thorns that part for you like curtains. Historians still argue whether Beauty and the Beast is a cautionary tale or a blueprint for radical empathy. Was Belle meant to be a savior or a mirror? Some suggest the Beast is a stand-in for trauma or queerness or chronic grief. Others say the real curse isn't fur or fangs. It's being seen only through someone else's lens. You step into a final clearing. At the center, a mirror, unlike the rest, cracked. Yes, but not broken. In it, you see yourself, just yourself. No filters, no enhancements, no script, and you're, okay, tired, messy, unfinished. But okay, the Beast rests a hand on your shoulder. That's all she ever wanted, he says. Who? Marin. Belle. You. The rain stops. Somewhere far away, the castle hums. You turn toward the exit. Ready? He asks. You exhale. Let's finish the story. You step through the clearing's edge, and the ground shifts again. No cracking or rumbling, just that subtle tilt that tells you the story has decided to rearrange its furniture while your back was turned. Suddenly, You're back in the corridor, or a version of it. The velvet drapes are gone now, replaced by long, rain-slicked windows that show not weather, but memories. You slow your pace, watching. One pane shows your first heartbreak, so embarrassingly theatrical it's almost charming. Another plays the moment Marin looked at you like she knew something you didn't, right before asking if you were happy. You said yes. You were lying. The beast doesn't walk beside you anymore, but you feel him, like a coat you forgot you were wearing. You still think this is about her. His voice murmurs from somewhere between your ears and your ribs. Isn't it? She was the trigger, not the tail. A door appears at the end of the hallway, made of mismatched wood, stitched together with silver thread. It creaks open as you approach, as though sighing in recognition. Inside is the ballroom, but not as you've seen it. This one is suspended mid-twilight, no ceiling, just a dome of stars stretched wide above your head. The chandelier is upside down, like a sea creature drifting on slow currents, its crystals dripping soft gold light. And in the center, a dance floor, but no dancers. Just a single record player spinning silently. You step into the space. The floor responds, light blooming beneath your feet, tracking your movements like footsteps in snow. You walk in a slow circle, aware that everything is listening. Then the record player clicks, and a song begins to play. Something impossibly old and heartbreakingly familiar. Marin's voice again, singing softly, just above a whisper. You found me where the story bends. I knew you'd come, but not like this. It's not a love song. It's a memory. You close your eyes. The dance floor pulses once, then twice, and then she's there. Marin. Not made of glass or echo this time. Just her. She steps forward slowly, barefoot as always, dress moving like mist. You don't speak, neither does she. You hold out your hand, and she takes it. The music continues. You dance. It isn't graceful, it isn't elegant. Your knee pops, she laughs, you step on her toes, she doesn't let go. I missed you, you say. I know. But you're not real. She tilts her head. Neither is the version of me you miss. The music swells, and still, you move. Why did you leave? Because I wasn't the ending. I was a turning point. But you were growing. I was a seed. The truth stings, but not cruelly, like lemon in tea, or rain on sunburn. She leans in. You needed to lose me to find you. Historians still argue whether the original Belle loved the beast or simply accepted him. Some texts hint at magic compulsion, others suggest she stayed for power, not passion. And in at least one lost manuscript, she wakes up alone in a castle that never spoke to her again. Then why does it still hurt? Marin doesn't answer. She doesn't need to. Instead, she kisses your cheek, not romantically, not tragically, just enough to press closure into your skin. Then, just like that, she begins to fade. You try to hold her, but your arms close around mist. She smiles apologetically. You don't need me in this part? You reach for her again. Too late, she's gone. The ballroom lights dim, the music fades, and the stars above blink one by one until only a single one remains, right above your head. It hums and begins to fall. You raise your hands as it lands gently in your palms. It's not a star at all. It's a mirror shard. And in it, you don't see Marin. You see yourself, not the grieving you, not the lost you, just you. A little tired, but glowing. The ballroom sighs. Doors open in all directions, and there, across the space, the beast waits. You danced, he says, nodding in approval. Was it necessary? Only always. You walk with him now, side by side. I thought I needed her to feel whole. No one makes you whole. That's your job. You exit the ballroom together. The castle is quieter now, less shifting, more steady, as though something inside it has settled. You're not sure if that's you or the walls, maybe both. You turn to the beast. So what happens now? He grins. Now? You get to choose. The path ahead forks into 3. One path smells like ink and old books. Another buzzes faintly with electricity and sunlight. The third disappears into thick forest, dripping with moss and moonlight. What do they mean? One is forgetting, one is returning, one is rewriting. You pause. And where do you go? He looks up at the ceiling, now just dark stone. I stay. This castle doesn't exist without someone who remembers. You hesitate. Then step toward the third path, the one with the forest. The beast nods once. Tell them I said hi. Who? Whoever's next. As you walk, the air cools. The trees open, and just before the path curves out of sight, you look back. The beast raises a hand. You raise yours, and then, he's gone, and you're not. You're still walking. But lighter, quieter, whole. The forest welcomes you without question. Not with bird song or dramatic moonbeams, just the sound of your own steps muffled by pine needles and damp earth. Somewhere to your left, a creek whispers secrets it's been dying to tell someone for centuries. You don't ask it to repeat them. You just listen. And for once, that's enough. The trees thicken as you go, leaning in like curious strangers. They're ancient, thick-bodied, bark gnarled like arthritic knuckles. But they're also alive in a way city trees never seem to be. They hum with memory, with leftover magic, with stories baked into the rings of their trunks like songs pressed into vinyl. And somewhere in the middle of it all, you find a library. Yes, a literal one. Because apparently this fairy tale isn't done with its metaphors yet. It sits tucked beneath an arch of willow branches, just off the path. A stone cottage, windows glowing soft amber, with bookshelves built into the outer walls. Moss grows between the titles. Some of the books breathe. You hesitate at the threshold. The door opens before you can knock. You took your time, says a voice, dry and amused. It's an older woman, probably in her 60s, with hair like chimney smoke and the kind of smirk that says she's read every version of every ending. Twice. I wasn't sure I was supposed to come here, you admit. No one ever is. That's what makes them ready. She motions you in. The interior smells like old paper, cinnamon, and fresh rain. The perfect blend, really. There's a fireplace. Tea already poured. A fat cat on the rug who doesn't acknowledge you because it knows it doesn't have to. Sit, the woman says, pulling a thick book from the shelf. We've got work to do. You sit. Because what else do you do when a librarian who might be a witch or possibly your subconscious commands you? She slams the book on the table. Dust puffs up. You cough theatrically. You're dramatic, she says, eyes twinkling, says the woman with a breathing bookshelf. She smiles. The book's cover is blank. But inside, pages filled with your story, all of it, every weird twist and half-finished chapter. Marin, the beast, the mirrors, that one hallway that turned into a memory minefield. It's all there. Is this me? It was you. You flip ahead. Empty pages. Dozens of them. Waiting. I don't know how it ends, you admit. Of course you don't, she says. That's not your job right now. Then what is? She leans forward, eyes sharp now. To remember that not every ending is an answer. Some are just better questions. You blink. The fire crackles. The cat sneezes. This was never about getting Marin back, was it? Nope. Or about fixing the beast? Definitely not. Then what was it about? She taps the book. It's about the part of you that needed to be lost, so the rest of you could come home. You sit back, winded by the quiet truth of it. Historians still argue whether fairy tales were originally meant to teach morals or simply scare children into staying inside after dark. Some believe Beauty and the Beast was coded encouragement for arranged marriages. Others say it was early psychological processing of Stockholm Syndrome. But no matter the theory, one idea persists. Every character is you, and every castle is yours to escape or inhabit. You sip the tea. It's perfect. The librarian clears her throat. You've been carrying this ending like it was a punishment. It felt like one. Of course it did. That's grief.